One of the fundamental laws of business is the 80-20 principle. And this is the idea that 80% of the value comes from 20% of the input. This is particularly true when we apply it to our customers. Chances are 80% of the revenue comes from just 20% of your customers. 80% of the profit almost certainly does. So one of the keys to building a great business is to build a business around them. Who's your ideal customer? What makes them so good? And then why would you deal with anyone else? Why would you even prospect for people who didn't in some way resemble your A-class customer? In order to be able to do that, and it's again one of the fundamental laws, if you like, is that we have to prune in order to grow. At the moment, we've got a whole lot of customers who produce very little revenue or profit. So if we turn the 80-20 around, 80% of the value comes from 20% of the customers. 80% of the loss and the grief and the stress and the pressure, that comes from the other 20%. It's what a normal distribution curve looks like that. These ones down here produce all the goods. These ones down here, D-class customers, produce all the grief. The first principle in building a business around these ones here is to get rid of them. Declutter the business, take out the D-class clients, because every minute that you spend on a low-value customer or a low-value activity, but let's stick with customers for now, every minute you spend with one of those is a minute that you can't spend here. And as we said in the last session, time is indeed of the essence. The one thing that you've got that's totally finite is time. So, how do we know a D-class customer? I apply what I call the dread test. If the phone goes and the caller ID tells you it's one of these and your body seizes up, you'll know you've got a D-class client. How significant are they in terms of draining our resources? There's a great example. A colleague, a friend of mine, was on the phone with a D-class customer for over half an hour. And this was a customer who didn't pay on time, was small beer, always looking for a discount. Other staff wouldn't work with that person because they were so difficult. In the time he had that conversation, he had 3 calls from A-class people. 2 A-class customers and an A-class prospect that had been trying to get for 6 months. They ended up as telephone messages while he was dealing with this. Great example of how these people take our time and our energy and our attention at the expense of those people. How do we get rid of D-class? Well, the first one is simply don't contact them. Be indifferent to them. The second one, if they're still not going to go away, is to reprice them. So even though they may be still on the books, at least you're making some money off them. That might at least move them up into C-class. If that still doesn't work, you might have to get to the point where you've simply got to refer them somewhere else, preferably one of your competitors. Get rid of the D-class so that you can spend more time with the A-class. One of the things that we've got to do is get rid of the idea that any customer is a good customer, because it's simply not true. Not all our customers create the same value for our business. Losing these is what we have to do if we're to get more of the A's. Being more selective means spending less time on them and more time with the high prospects. We've got more time for high value, and it comes down to this. Focus means saying no. Focus means saying no. When it comes right down to it, life is too short for D-class. What I recommend you do is make a list now of all the D-class clients that you've got and apply a strategy. You're either going to reprice it, you're going to take on a strategy of indifference, or you're going to actively refer them somewhere else. Does this work? When I ask people in seminars if they've gone through this process of getting rid of the D-class, I've said to them, what's happened as a consequence? What happened to your business as a consequence? 99 times out of 100, they've increased their profit, improved their revenue, and reduced their stress. 99 times out of 100. This strategy almost always works, and yet in a room full of 100 people, only 5 or 6 will have done it. It's such a basic one, the 80-20 principle. There's nothing that stands in the way of you doing this. Put it in the gas system, the commitment to move these people out of your business and out of your life, and get on with it.